Best of r/ Tales from Tech Support episode 78. Subscribe for edit videos daily. I'm back. Radio Shack franchise computer technician person guy here to complain about yet another customer. For basic context, we service thousands of unique clients a year with a workforce of 3 techs including the owner and 2 of your more general Radio Shack type employees. I'd like to apologize for the shit that is my story, but believe you me, after dealing with a customer like this you won't be able to organize thought properly either. A particular customer in the automotive industry had given me an interesting migraine and a bad weekend. And the whole story stretches back to early October when he was having some printer problems, which I'm sure we can all agree are the most mind-numbingly stupid and annoying problems to deal with. I was dispatched to UNFACK his printer issue, and while on the call had an absolutely enthralling discussion on why he should upgrade to 10 now rather than after the Windows 7 EOS. He agreed he should do it sooner than later because when 7 died we would be insanely busy upgrading half the town. Fast forward to Wednesday the 29th of January. He calls in wanting an upgrade because the software he uses to keep track of pretty much everything relevant to his job is not going to support 7 anymore and he is super busy. We have to do everything but fisticuffs to get him to part with his computer for the 2 minutes it takes to start the upgrade over remote support and the 45 minutes or so it takes to install, because I have shit to do and I don't have time. After finally convincing him I am not capable of warping time and getting connected, things are not going well. It was one of our bottom of the line builds from 2014 or so with an Athlon 5350. Imagine a quad core, but all 4 cores add up to 1 Pentium core, and was running slow as hell. I learned later it had a degraded 5400 revolutions per minute HDD, which you can feel spinning up by touching the chassis, and enough dust to make a just add water pig pen kit. He doesn't want to part with it long enough for me to replace the HDD, because I have shit to do and I don't have time. So we have to work something out here before he loses everything. And on top of that, his software won't let me do the F-King upgrade because somehow it isn't compatible with 10 according to Microsoft, even though the software is what's telling him to go to 10. After begging him to talk to his software provider, I have more important shit to do, he finally buckles. Friday the 31st of January at about 1:30, to buying a new PC. A Tasmanian deviled his SSR PC in less than 10 minutes, and since I was the only tech on hand I called up there and requested a guide to come grab a flash drive from me with a simple plan. 1. Come get the drive. 2. I remote and move all important data to the drive. 3. He brings the drive back to me and bam, I no longer need his computer on hand since his software company will be the ones to reinstall his programs. So the guy comes by, grabs the drive, and about 45 minutes later I get a call asking where to plug it in. Turned out he was looking on the monitor for a USB port. I try to remote in and he says he doesn't have an internet connection. He had unplugged his Ethernet and sat the USB in the Ethernet port and finally got it right. Every few seconds during the phone call he is repeating I have shit I need to get done. I log in, start the transfer, call him and say you can use everything on your computer but do not touch this window here, and walk away for about 20 minutes to go do something else, and when I come back the session is gone. $at. He doesn't pick up my calls, and at 45 minutes before closing on a Friday I wasn't even on the schedule for he brings his poor mistreated machine for the transfer. I swear the thing flinched when I reached to pick it up, demanding it back by Monday. Best part is my flash drive was plugged into the Ethernet port again. Now here is the part where I wish I could tell you I bludgeoned him with a Seagate or shanked him with some old DDR2, but in a small town word gets around fast, and even though this guy is an absolute hole a lot of people know him and we don't need him making us look like the bad guys by turning him away. Problem is I had shit to do today and was planning on being somewhere that is not work. Honestly, this software was mission critical for his business, although he refused to tell me when the upgrade had to be completed before his stuff no longer worked. It was clearly functioning other than a warning message on startup, and I couldn't find the answer to that question myself, but I still had to try the old hey $ customer. Yes, so I kinda had plans for this weekend that were made during Christmas timeline to no success other than him bitching about needing it done now. So I come in on Saturday the 1st of February. We normally don't have any techs on schedule for Saturdays and I have now come in 2 days in a row. I wasn't supposed to work just to please this guy. Fiance is annoyed. I'm pissed and my kids are missing daddy, so I am in a visibly shitty mood. He isn't even open on Saturday, so I had to dig through the phone book before finding out one of his co-workers is friends with my co-worker's husband. I get his number and he'll be goddamned if he doesn't pick up. Hear me say this is you/Ishnacism with the %% then promptly hang up on me. I tried calling back and he declined the calls. Whatever, we're in it to win it then. I finish the transfer, post the invoice and set it by the front door with a sticky note on it for whoever opens Monday to call him, since I come in a few hours after opening. I show up Monday and the machine is gone, but upon getting to my desk and noticing a distinct lack of RGB, I realize my keyboard has 4 notes all with his name on them. We don't use a formal ticketing system. I call him and ask what's going on. He tells me he can't reinstall his software. I tell him to call his software provider and we part ways. An hour and a half later he calls again. It's installed but the data isn't there. I assure him it is and navigate to the folder. I spend 20 minutes backing up to show him it is there, but that his software company will need to import it. 2 more hours he can't figure out how to import photos from his camera for the sake of dealing with insurance companies for bodywork, and this is where the trouble really starts. I remote in, show him the standard method of transferring individual photos via the good old copy/paste method, which should work great because he wants the photos on his desktop so he can drag and drop them into Outlook. The next day he calls back. I remote in and show him the same thing again. I also can't scan, so I install HP Scan and Capture and point it to his scanner and show him how to use it. Next day, again, I can't import these photos and I'm falling more and more behind, so I'm just downright pissed off at this point, but I try being a good employee again. $me. It'll show you another method that is meant more for backing up pictures from a camera. It is really meant more for storing things like vacations and events. $him. I don't care, I just need it to work because we aren't making any money and we keep wasting it on you. I grit my teeth, remote in again, pin photos to his taskbar, show him how to import through that, and while trying to show him where they import to he says you need to slow down this. I said my job, you're the computer technician. That was the breaking point. I was going as slow as physically possible, only performing the next step when I heard him say okay, as I know he was writing notes. $me. No, actually this is your job. My job has never required me to import photos. My job has never required me interacting with insurance companies. And my job has damn sure never required me to work with software designed to keep track of automotive repairs. $him. Can I speak to $other tech? $me. Gladly. Fast forward one last time to this week. Monday he calls again. He still can't figure it out, but $other tech is at home sick. I check how much time she has spent cumulatively since then over remote support with him, and it is well in excess of 12 hours. I clocked about 8 hours on the new one in the week leading up to snapping, but we have probably around 22 hours of billable labor at $85 an hour, factoring in the transfer and malware removal. That could have been literally 2 hours if he wasn't so dense. We are now sitting at a whopping 26 hours total on the new machine alone, maybe an hour or 2 of which was anything other than trying to teach him how to transfer pictures from an old camera. A full 24-hour day plus change to copy and paste. We have now deferred him to a sweet lady we know that teaches other old people how to use QuickBooks. She has the patience of a sin, and I sadly expect to see her in the obituary any day now due to a stroke from dealing with this dingus. If I hear anything from her and people care to hear about it, I'll post a follow-up in comments. Thank you. Next. This happened years ago when I worked for tech support for one of the largest cable provider in the US. I took this call and still laugh about it. I still don't know how she came to the conclusion she did. Me equals me, her equals elderly woman. Me. Thanks for calling. How may I help you? Her. Ever since your installer was here I have a squeaking coming from my heater vents. Me. That's odd. Can I get your phone number so I can access your account? Number is not in system. Me. I'm sorry. I can't find an account for you. Are you sure you are calling the correct company? Not uncommon for wrong customers to call us. Her. I'm not a customer. Your truck was across and down the street at my neighbor's when the squeaking started. Your technician did something wrong. Me. I want to make sure I understand what you are saying. A technician never entered your home or yard and did not install services, but the work he performed at your neighbor's is causing a squeak in your home. Her. Yes. Me. Is the neighbor next door? Her. No. It's 3 or 4 houses down in the other side of the street. Me. Mom. If a technician did not enter the premises, the squeak is being caused by something else. It cannot be caused by an install at another location. I would suggest you look for a local contractor. Her. I know it was caused by him. It started as soon as he got there. I want your supervisor. Me. Mom. A supervisor will not be able to provide any more assistance than I can. This issue is not related to our install at your neighbor's house, and since our technician never entered your home or stepped foot on your property, the issue is merely a coincidence. I will suggest to contact a local contractor to determine the cause. Her. I said I want a supervisor. I then spent 10 minutes explaining to my sup why she wanted to talk to him. It took him over an hour to get off the phone with her and still took someone visiting her home. As a courtesy, we sent a supervisor to her home and it ended up being something squeaking in her heater. When it comes to tech support, the customer is rarely right in my experience. Edit. Formatting and spelling. Thank you. Next. I do tech support over the phone for fitness equipment. I also do parts and machine sales. I deal with dozens and dozens of machines that date back to the 90s and current, so we a lot of times need serial S to pull up the correct unit since we often made various versions of the machine. I do out of warranty support, so sometimes people have things second hand too. Some guy, I just got this treadmill from my niece, it just says select user. Me. Okay, let's see, can you please tell me the serial of the machine? Thinking that he probably just needs to hit start/enter/push a button and maybe he doesn't know that or it's stuck, so instead of sounding rude, I want to see the exact console I'm dealing with so I don't tell him to hit enter if it says start or press a green button instead of blue. Him. Seriously? This should be a real simple question. Are you kidding me? Me. Well, you're right sir, in theory it should be a real simple thing like pressing start or enter, but clearly that's not the case here, so I want to make sure I'm looking at the right console to be specific. Eventually, we discovered that his machine is just looping back to select user after he tries anything, so it wasn't so simple as just hitting enter/ he has a short circuit on his upper control board. He didn't believe me, so he hung up and called someone else who told him the same thing. I admit I got a bit sassy in my response. It's just real irritating when someone thinks something is so simple, and if it were so simple, why are they calling us for support? Thank you. Next. I've heard a lot of stories and I wanted to share one of mine. I work for a self-serving tanning saloon in a land in North Europe. We need sun to survive in the winter. Seriously. And I normally help customer to register that they're over 18 years old. Yes, we have an age limit to tan. Remote beds that doesn't start. Remote deactivate beds with error, and also inform customer about how to get the best tan. The government is very strict, so customers can't use cash anymore. Therefore most people want to use our app since it's cheaper. Before, the app support had their own number that you could find in the app, but since they are a different company than us and had other work related stuff to do, they removed it, as 99% of the customers calling had a problem we could fix ourselves. Only if we couldn't fix the problem we could give out their number. Since it wasn't the same company, our phone service didn't allow us to redirect phones, so they had to call themselves. We could also create a queue on our mail, but they are very slow with answering, so it would take longer to do that. This customer called, she used an anonymous number and told me all about her life story and blah blah blah, and that her app didn't work. I got her number, but I couldn't find her account. I can only search for exact name and exact phone number. So I tried getting her to spell her name. I couldn't get her account. She told me again about her life story and how unprofessional I was that couldn't find her account. And this was bad customer service. But what the heck could I do? If I don't get any account up by the exact name, I can't check her account. I told her about the possibility to call app support. She refused. So I asked her if she could contact us on Facebook or email with a screenshot at the front of her account on her phone so it would be easier for me to find the problem, and also asked tech/app support for help myself, as I'm not tech support and I'm only the employee responsible to answer the phone and answer tanning related questions. They called me so many times, every time screaming to me, calling me names, telling me how much of a bad employee I am for not getting up any hits and demanding me to help her. I tried, but I'm not tech support. We have an own number for problems we can't solve. That is for tech/app support. She ended up sending me her bank account info and her profile on Facebook before she finally sent the app info. I could see she misspelled her last name to me, therefore I couldn't find her, and I found the problem. Her phone number was not registered as an 8-digit number, but like 0000000000835 or something. As it is not possible to change the phone number as it's like an user ID or something, there were two possibilities. I could delete her account and she could create a new one herself, or I/her could contact app service to get them to help her as her account was blocked. I do not have access to block an account or open it. Actually, we were told that this wasn't possible, so I deleted her account, but she had problems creating a new account. Another app problem I couldn't solve, so I asked her to contact app support and hung up. Told everybody else to do the same as we cannot help her. We're still not app support. So finally she did call, and she complained about me and gave them so many lies. They gave her the mail of the top boss in our company, trying to get me fired. I was so angry. She had called us like 100 times. I had said we're not giving her more free tanning time. We'll fix her problem now, and I would tell her exactly what I needed to do that. And I fixed her problem. Luckily, our boss trusts in us since we're good at our work and I always goes a little extra without pay. So he just sent the complaint to the employee account and I addressed the complaint. But I was angry. This woman lied about what I said, was a complete nightmare, and the app support sent her directly to my boss without trying to figure out what happened. She also blamed Emmy for her blocked account. That is only app support that can do. She even called me the devil in her mail and the app support that blocked her accounts for angels. Of course they could fix the problem. They are the app support. So I saved her number, and about 3 months later I changed her email address to contain one spelling mistake and changed her password. She can't change the mail herself and she could only change PIN with the email address. I also marked her on her account with us, so if she ever calls again we can see how she treated us. It's not okay even for me or any of my co-workers. I hope she never's come back, and she is also the sole reason I'm terrified when customers calls with an anonymous ID. Because it's always almost because they're going to scream or humiliate us. Thank you. Next. Happy New Year. I forgot about this account during the holiday season because I got a promotion at the end of the year and I've had to move some of my life around in the meantime. Oh well. Here's your third story of a few more. A few of you contacted me last time saying that there wasn't enough tech support in my story. This one has more. I promise you that this story will keep your panties smooth and out of the bunch they were in before the start of the decade. I would imagine that some of you want to know why I call my old boss Mr. Aesthetic. I previously mentioned that he was an Apple person for aesthetic reasons. However, the extent to which he cared about shit being aesthetic is a lot more concerning than you think. Herein lies the tale of the day I came up with Mr. Aesthetic as the name for my boss. At this point, I had been working for the department for about a year. I was over halfway through my degree, meaning that I was 1 year closer to being done. I stayed a year after I graduated because my then fiancée, now wife, didn't want to move yet. Now we live in a different part of the country. She stays home to do whatever she does with her girlfriends. And I have to put up with managing a staff of 30 fresh out of college schmucks who don't know how to create a resume. Might I suggest using LaTeX? Enter the witch. The witch is a female faculty member who had worked long enough in the department to have tenure but not long enough to control Mr. Aesthetic and make demands that would override his executive decision to ensure that everyone owned an Apple product. However, after some heated discussions with Captain Marvelous and Mr. Aesthetic himself, the witch was given the opportunity to request a Windows box. Hooray for her. Sidebar: for those of you who might be offended by the name of this woman. No, I am not calling her the witch because of the fact that she was an irate female. She was not an irate person at all, but she was female. Instead, I call her the witch because she literally dressed like the witches you see in children's fairy tales. long black dresses, stringy hair, weird hats, and the occasional sinister laugh. Her office was also a mess in the sense that she had stacks of paper everywhere as well as an odd collection of items, one of them being a mortar and pestle. I am unsure what she used the mortar and pestle for, but all I know is that witches use them, and she looked like a fucking witch. Ergo, she is the witch. I had decided one morning that the items on my list were to be done out of order, since Mr. Aesthetic had not yet changed his rule about completing items in order. I worked from the bottom up, since the top item was an all-day kind of thing and the bottom 4 items could be completed in a matter of minutes. That day, bringing new equipment to faculty, troubleshooting various small issues, that kind of thing. I was walking back to my office and passing Witch's office when I heard, /u/is it ECTIC? I turned around. The witch was standing by her table nearly pulling her hair out. I need to print. My current computer isn't working with the new printer Mr. Aesthetic bought me. I put in a request for a new computer back in November. It's now April. I've emailed Mr. Aesthetic 6 times. Where is my new computer? I need to print. No idea. This is all news to me, Mom. What should I do? I thought for a moment. Email Captain Marvelous. She might know. Oh, yes. Okay. She slams the door in my face and proceeds to hammer away on her keyboard. No sooner than me getting back to my office is an email from Captain Marvelous herself where I'm BCC'd. Which needs her computer. Install her computer by end of day. Mr. Aesthetic storms into my office with a tomato. Yes, a whole tomato. What are you working on? Oh, Stop working on it. I need you to set up the witch's computer. I grin, knowing that setting up a new computer, especially a Windows box, meant that I could catch up on the Bucks game while everything installed. Sure thing. Where is it? Surplus? Another sidebar for you kiddos who have never worked in academic IT. Surplus is typically a room where we put older technology to pasture to sit and collect dust and never see the light of day again unless we need to clean the room out to make space for new technology. You never throw out/give away old technology in surplus in case you end up needing it. You know, for that one time you might need an iMac G5 for a history lesson on how shitty and overpriced Macs are. Off I went down to our main surplus room, which was in the basement of our building. You know those scenes in the first season of Westworld where Bernard goes to visit Anthony Hopkins' character in the basement of the admin building with all the old robots standing around? That was modeled after our surplus, but with significantly less cockroaches than we had. Mr. Aesthetic has turned our surplus room into a temporary storage room. Every time we got a shipment of new tech, he would put it in surplus and then forget about it until he was asked to retrieve something that was ordered but never set up. So every so often when I was asked to retrieve something from surplus I would find a brand new MacBook Pro alongside an unrecognizable MacBook from the early 2000s. Lo and behold, the witch's computer was right in the entrance of the surplus. I didn't need to sift through surplus shit this time, meaning that my chances of catching malaria were at an all-time low for the day. Yay me. I bring the computer upstairs, set it up in my office, and get it updated. Fast forward to the post-lunch crawl where I'm tired of watching the Bucks lose and I am set to install the new computer in the witch's office. Mr. Aesthetic comes back in with his tomato, which, at this point, was half eaten. Computer ready to go for the witch? Yep, it's a beaut. I wish I had one of them. Someday, son. Someday you'll get one. Yeah, sure. Can you do me a favor, though? Sure thing. What's up? Can you make sure that it's aesthetic when you set it up? I shrug and say sure before walking past him with the computer into the witch's dungeon. Now, I must say this again about the witch. Her office was a mess. I'm unsure if this was because she was an eccentric academic or because she was legitimately a messy person, but the space itself was the representation of organized chaos. Her printer was located on top of her desk merely inches away from her current monitor, with stacks of paper covering everything else in the office. All that room needed was a match and it would go up like a fucking tinderbox. The fire marshal would have had a fiesta if he saw the state of her office. Lucky for me, the witch wasn't in. However, I wasn't to move any of her non-tech paraphernalia, meaning that I was only to move her tower, monitor, keyboard, and mouse, which I did quite well. As I was finishing up with the computer, the temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees and she appeared behind me with a mug of what looked like tea but smelled like rancid tomato soup. "Ah, my new computer. Can I print?" "Sure can." I had to loop some cords around the monitor because of the printer's placement, but it should be fine. To add, the printer model she had required a proprietary cord, not the typical USB to whatever that most printers now use, and it was really short. The problem is that I couldn't hide the cord while simultaneously be able to plug in the damn thing, meaning that the cord from her printer to her tower was visible. I don't care how you did it, all I want to do is print. Quick question for you, Mom. She set her soup tea down next to her new keyboard. Yes? Does it look aesthetic enough for you? She looked at the computer for a good 20 seconds, then back to me. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. I want to print. Your job is done. Wonderful. I left her to do whatever the hell she did in her office to clock out for the day. The next morning, there's a note on my computer monitor from Mr. Aesthetic. Which's computer is not aesthetic. See me now. I take the note off my monitor and walk to his office, which, at the time, was locked, since he rarely showed up before noon on a day that ended in Y. I decide to answer some emails in the meantime while I wait for him to show up to the office. Around noon, as I'm about to eat my sandwich, he shows up, this time with nothing in his hands, a rare occasion. The witch's computer is not aesthetic. I told you that I needed it to look aesthetic. I need all the tech here to look aesthetic in case, you know, a prospective student comes in and sees the faculty computers and think to themselves, wow, this place is fancy. That kind of thing. It needs to look special. Aesthetic. No cords anywhere. I sigh. You do know that her office is a mess, right? I'm not allowed to touch any of her non-tech stuff because of the policies. Her printer cord is less than 24 inches, too. Sure. Be creative. Do something to hide the cord. Make it aesthetic. He gestured with jazz hands when he said creative and aesthetic. I leave my office to walk back to the witch's office. She was in that day eating some kebabs. No idea what the meat was, but it did not look nor smell like chicken nor beef. I've been asked to make your computer look aesthetic. Like hell you are. I need to print. Don't touch my shit. At this point, an idea forms in my head. Can you do me a favor? What? If I unplug your printer, can you send a request to Mr. Aesthetic asking for him to fix the printer? Now? Yes. She checks her watch. Well, I do have to go teach soon. Perfect. She gets up. I unplug her printer, hide the cord, and we go our separate ways. As I'm packing up for the day, Mr. Aesthetic forwards me a request email from the witch asking to fix her printer. I walk back into the office, plug in the printer, and leave for the day. The next day there's a 60-inch cord that he probably spent about $60 on my desk with a note aesthetic, please. I realized that the tech support part of this story was how I managed to install a new computer in an environment that shouldn't have contained any form of electricity or things that could spark while also managing to successfully secure a new cord. There is your tale from tech support. Thank you. Next. I work for a small MSP that supports a range of clients in many sectors, so I'm slowly accumulating stories to share. This one happened this morning. The user is from a firm that recently merged with another firm. The firm that was being absorbed had an Office 365 tenancy, while they themselves were still an on-premises Exchange server, 2010 no less. Due to a lack of funds at the firm, they had yet to get us to merge everything into one big happy 365 tenancy, so we were constantly coming up with issues relating to emails. The user phoned up to say he was having trouble sending an email, that he'd attempted several times over the last week to send it from both mailboxes, email at Campania and email at Campanib, and the recipient never got it, and they hadn't received any bouncer backs either. First things first, I jumped on our mail filtering service and did an email trace, because the first likely suspect was it was being quarantined somewhere. However, there was no record of any emails sent. Next step, let's have a look at delivery reports on the server. Nothing there either. Lastly, logged into webmail on both mailboxes. Sitting there, in all its glory, are the missing emails. Sender, 365 tenant on behalf of on-premises, and on the other, on premises on behalf of 365 tenant. Also in their inboxes is a bunch of non-delivery reports, stating that they couldn't do that. So much for no bouncer backs. See tech support rule number 1, users lie. I called up the user and remoted into their computer, so I could see just how they were achieving this. They'd taken an email that was originally sent to their on-premises mailbox, and went to send it onto a client of company B, 365 tenant, by forwarding it and changing the sender address to be the 365 tenant. When that didn't work, they took the mail from their sent items and forwarded that, changing the sender address to the on-premises mailbox, thusly forcing both mailboxes to try to send as each other. I drafted the message from scratch, simply copy/pasted the body and attachments, and naturally the email sends first time. I wish they'd just migrate everything into 365. Thank you. Next. So for my next tale I am taking you back 3 or so years to when I first started working at my current job. As I mentioned in my last post, the company I work for mainly does telecoms, but one of the other services we provide is gigabit wireless point-to-point broadband for business customers who can't get fiber. Now we have one engineer in the company who usually deals with anything to do with the installation and repair of the equipment for this, as he has all the necessary training and certifications for working at heights. Now I've probably been in the job a few months and still within my probationary period, so I don't really want to tell my boss no, I can't do that yet. This leads me to the ticket in question. I get a ticket passed to me for a customer in the city center who has reported their BB has been down all morning. They are a wireless customer. Our first line techs were able to check the status of the various links in the wireless relay and have confirmed that they have lost contact with the TX/RX dish on the customer side. The expert engineer is not available, so I'm tasked with the job of replacing the radio module on the dish. No problem, says me. I get the parts and head off into the city. On arriving I find that the customer is located in a 3-story building and I am told that the dish is on the roof. However, to get to it I need to go up into what would best be described as a large roof space, walk to the other end where I would find a skylight window which was my access onto the roof. Now at this point I really should have stopped and called the office to say there's no way I can go out onto the roof safely and they'll just have to wait until expert is available, but did I? Hell. I was in the army for 13 years and we improvise, adapt and overcome. That's what I told myself anyway. So I climbed out of the skylight to find myself precariously positioned where the slanted roof meets an ankle-high cement ledge and the dish is mounted on a pole attached to this ledge. Now I really should have stopped and said no fucking way, but the customer was on my back and I wanted to prove myself to the boss, so I cracked on despite being on the edge of a roof 3 floors up without any safety gear whatsoever. Now if that all wasn't bad enough, in order to swap out the faulty radio I had to reach up and out beyond the edge of the roof to remove the faulty one by touch only and then fit the new one in its place. At any point I could quite easily have plummeted to my untimely death, but I managed to get it done and this did fix the fault. The customer's BB connection was re-established much to their delight. I vowed never to do anything so stupid again. It's just not worth it.